All right, so the state of Michigan just wrapped up their annual no reserve tax sale. And today we're going to take a look to see whether it was full of steals, deals, or duds. And when I say they just wrapped it up, talking like 2 hours ago, they posted the results. So this is going to be the first time that I actually have gone through each one of these. So this will hopefully help you decide whether you missed out and you need to go ahead and write it down in your calendar for next year, or if you just avoid it and go to another state. Let's go ahead and switch it over to my screen. So what you're looking at right now is tax-sale.info. Now, we've talked about this a few times here in the recent month or two. And the reason is because they have a lot of properties in the state of Michigan that go to a tax sale. They have two tax sales there. The first one will start off the amount of back due taxes, interest, and fees. And if the property does not sell at that sale, they will then offer it at a no reserve auction. That starts at a nominal opening bid, usually around $100 or so. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on upcoming auctions. It's going to say that there are no upcoming auctions because they're all done for this year. Now, the reserve auctions, the ones that start at the amount of back due taxes, interest, and fees, we actually go through all of these if you would like. Tax-sale.info. It's a completely free website to browse. If you want to place bids in the future, you got to authorize a credit card. But if you just want to browse it to see if there are good properties there, by all means, you can do it. All right, so let's scroll all the way down to the bottom and we'll click no reserve auction. These were posted at noon today, and the recording of this video is done at 2:09. So we're just looking at these together to see if there are any deals or not. It's a rather large catalog of properties, so it takes a little bit of time to go through. All right, let's see what we got. The first one here, luckily nobody bid on. That's good because that was a dud for sure. You have Lakes to the North. We talked about these previously. I did a video on this, I think last week or so, went through the properties. Maybe the day the auction closed, the day before it closed, and talked about Lakes to the North, how the values there were, I believe, around $2,000 or so. And they have very high HOA dues relative to the value. I think $500 a year, somewhere in that ballpark. So long story short, the folks that are paying over $1,000, they're maybe making their money back and a couple $100. The guy that they're paying $200, $400 perhaps, they're making a little bit of money. I just don't see at $1,100 by the time you pay any dues whatsoever and taxes and transfer fees and selling fees whenever you go to resell it. And if you have to pay for any marketing or anything like that, if you're trying to sell this for $7,000, I'm sorry, for $2,000, you're just not going to make your money back. And let me just, while we're here, I believe this is the one. You can actually type in available lots. Yeah, here it is right here. So we can type in available lots. The association actually sells lots here. And hopefully if the people bid on this know what they're doing, they came across this. Oh yeah, so $2,000 plus your $400 a year assessment. So you have some people here paying at $500, you can probably make some money and sell it to a scalper. Sell it to a speculator, not a scalper. At $1,100, margins are going to be pretty tight. You might make a few $100. So yeah, some of these are deals, some of these are duds, just depending on what they paid. Let's scroll down here. That's a good thing nobody bought these because that's you have association dues. Looks like somebody paid $700 for that. That's interesting. $100, maybe they're trying to figure out a way to make it work. Maybe it's worth the gamble at $100 or $150 even, perhaps. But you do have association dues, and you probably have to rebuild your dockage and stuff like that. So I actually said if you're going to buy any of them, this is the one you want to buy because you do have the planks down at least. Okay, moving on. This one for 0.69. I actually remember this one. This was a decent property, $17,250. Sounds like a decent deal on that property. It's a corner lot. Yep. I think there's an old structure there. Yep. There was some water, I believe, somewhere on this property. Maybe it's a different property I was thinking of. Yeah, I guess there was no water on this property. Yeah, this looks like a decent deal. Don't know the exact values in there. Have to do a little more research on it and stuff, but looks like a decent deal. I mean, nice little building lot. Yeah, decent for that one. These are actually interesting. I'm surprised these sold for so cheap. And the research that we did on last week was very basic research. So obviously you have condominium. They're condominium lots. So you have to look at the unit 12, the condominiums. Okay. you'd have to look and figure out exactly what the building requirements and stipulations are before you bid on these properties. My assumption is if you were to have done that, you would have realized that they probably aren't worth as much as they might first appear looking at just this image here. They might require you actually have to build a building or, square footage requirements or something there. I don't exactly know. You have to look more into this, but based on just this image here and these lot sizes and the newer homes, I would say that there's money in this, but it depends on what the developer's agreement said could be constructed on this property. It's kind of what it comes down to. $850, that guy will make a few bucks, it looks like. This person wasted their money, unless they live right next to it or something. This person wasted their money. $700, that's possible. If you have the intentions to remodel it or something, you can probably make some money off that. This property here, same thing. That's a project though. Same thing here. That actually went for a little more than I thought it would go for. But that's a project. Same thing. That's a project. These little lots here, $800, $800. Don't really see them making a whole lot of money off these. $150. You might be able to sell it to a speculator online and make a few $100. This property here with all this junk on it, is a waste of money, in my opinion. And again, I'm really shooting from the hip on all this stuff. So don't, if you're the person that bought this, maybe you have a plan for it and maybe there's the value there. Don't know, but I'm just kind of shooting from the hip on what I see here. $1,100 for this, that can make it work. $5,700, you could probably make that one work for $5,700. I don't know exactly the extent of the damage or anything. It doesn't look like it's in horrible condition, but $14,000, that's a project there. I remember pulling this one up last week when we were looking at this. That's a couple of properties, if I remember right. He looks at, there's two properties there. That's a project. And if you bought that, I'd be careful because the code enforcement is going to come after you soon. So make sure you have plans for that, whatever you did. If you had a good plan, you got good bones for 14 grand, but it's a project. Luckily, nobody bid on that one. This little side lot, so maybe $300 for you. Might be able to resell it online, perhaps. Old church, $600. Don't really see much going on there. $750 for this. This is a building that was an old bait shop. We reviewed this last week. Maybe you make some money off of it, or maybe you can sell it to somebody who's demolishing that structure and building a new one. Perhaps I don't know. That's money in that one. Money in this one looks a little bit small, actually. Don't know the building requirements there. If you can build on it, there's some money there. 0.11 acres. Yeah, don't really see a whole lot of money there. Perhaps you can get your money back out of it, make a little bit of money. We'll see. $1,600 for this thing. That's a project and a half there. Wow. 0.26 acres. That looks like a decent little property. Let me see if something's $400. Let's see. SEV used to be an old house there. Yeah. A few trees, small shed. Ideal for rebuilding and starting. Yeah, as long as it's buildable. There is some junk on this property, which is not fun because you have to take. That's your responsibility now. But just looking at this, it looks like for $400, it probably made a little money there. You'll have some equity. $100 here in an area set for demolition. All these pretty much are outside of. We went over these previously. The $100 lots, you can probably make some money selling online to speculators, but as far as selling it to builders, there's just no building going on right now in that area, as far as I'm aware of. $2,200 for this seems a little bit steep for me. It is perhaps buildable, or at least more so than these. I don't know if these are buildable or not. If they're buildable, you can sell them online. If not, you're even gonna have trouble selling them online to anybody. But nonetheless, if this is buildable and this is buildable, the $2,200 seems a little bit overpriced. 3,200 fire damage. Yeah, you could, depending on how bad it is, maybe make some money. Luckily, nobody bid on this one because that's a retention area. Somebody bid on this one, which is too small to build on, too small to do 4,000 square feet lot. And I think there was even some issues with access, maybe. Yeah, it looks like that's just a weird That's a weird lot there. The person that bought that probably wasted their money. This little strip of land here is, let's see, 25 feet wide. Unless you own this property next to or other property, you wasted your money. Sorry. Next one. You got this piece of property here. It's got some road frontage, 550. Might be able to make some money on this. I think it's on the road. Let me check to see. You do have, I don't know if you can access it from this road. Looks like you probably could. You could 39 feet wide is very narrow. Have checked setbacks and stuff to see if it's buildable. If it is, you made some money. Vacant parcel access issues, paid $150. You bought yourself a tax bill. I mean, you know, there might be situations where, like this guy, $50, whoever paid for this. There's no road frontage on this, legal or physical. It doesn't look like to me. Let me look here. Maybe that's a road in front of it, or was supposed to be a road in front of it, perhaps. So it has legal access, no physical access. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with that besides pay your tax bill every year. But so, upon this property, it's going to be a frequent flyer. Same thing with these, $550. You know, folks, you don't just go out and buy real estate because it's cheap, please, because a lot of folks are wasting their money. $550 on this. You can't get to this property. You have legal access. You don't have physical access. You can't just take a bulldozer and bulldoze your way down to this property. So whoever bought that wasted their money. Sorry. I mean, you might be able to find somebody online. Maybe you're hoping for some sucker to sell it to online that you think you make money off of, but I don't know. $550 for that, ridiculous. Moving on. $100 vacant parcel road access issues. Again, got issues. This property here, I think we looked at this one before too. Okay, that's not a horrible property for $600. It's 3 properties combined. Yeah, maybe. All right, let's go here. Let's see. You got 6,000 square feet parcel on this one. Don't know if it's big enough to build on. You need to contact the county to see what they will allow. 60 by 100. They sold it 4 years ago. This person paid, and there's also a road sign right in the middle of it, which kind of sours things up a little bit. More than likely, this person will stop paying taxes and they'll see it in another 4 years because it's not going to be worth much. All right, we got 0.30 acres. This property does not look like it's accessible. Wixom Lake area. 4 platted lots. They're platted, but no. Okay, so you have physical access. I'm sorry. Legal access, no physical access. $800. You bought yourself a tax bill. All right, Sugar Springs, same thing with lakes to the north. These lots, I think, are selling for like $2,000, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe $2,500. So you can make a little bit of money off these if you sell them quickly and don't let the association dues accumulate. We talked about these POA properties. This one, lakes to the north, and there's some other ones that you can make money on. We actually did a whole demonstration on how to make money on them in Tax Sale HQ, which you can check out, taxselhq.com. It's our community, and also I do a lot of strategic stuff in there. But you can actually make money off these. These folks are all making money, except for maybe this guy that paid $1,200. But if you do it correctly and you strategize correctly, know what you're doing, you can make money. All these are making their money makers in my book, even though the general public might not see them that because the HOA dues are pretty high relative to the value. 0.14, maybe. That's a project there. Oh, no. I remember this one. I think this is a retention area. Yeah. So if somebody paid $1,500 for a retention area, that's not good. Just looking at this lot, we talked about this last week. Generally, what happens when a developer has the permission to develop the subdivision, they'll require certain things. It might be green space, retention areas, like this retention area here, this retention area here. And when they do that, they set it aside. They say to the county, listen, hey, in exchange for allowing us to develop and cut up this land into all these little lots, we will not build on this, and this will be reserved for a retention area. Now, I don't know the developer's agreement. Maybe there's something weird in it that says you can change it from retention area in this specific county for this specific subdivision. But looking at this, it literally says it says detention area. It should say retention area. Number 1, common area. Looking at that just tells me that that is a property you don't want to buy. It dips right there. It's definitely sloped for water to fill in. You can see where the slope is. It's not like you can just go in there. Yeah, I mean, that's a retention pond that somebody bought for $1,500. Okay, moving on. Let's see, $2,300. A failing commercial building in Sumner. That's a project. These are all projects. Don't know the scope of the project or if it's worth any money after you fix it up or not, but perhaps it is. This property here is a waste of money. I remember seeing this last time. It's a little triangle lot, if I remember right. And yeah, there it is. A little triangle lot. I mean, there's nothing to do with that. You can't build because the setbacks don't reach it. $700. Somebody paid $150 for a tax bill for a property that they can't do anything with. $550 for this property. I think that's the guy's backyard or the side yard. I don't think it's buildable, but if it is, you can probably make some money on it online. 0.15 for this one. Maybe you can sell it to somebody. It seems a little steep to me. Half a duplex. They bought themselves a lawsuit for $450,000 if they ever intend to do anything with it. Depending on who owns the other half. Maybe it's the person that owns the other half that bought it, hopefully. $450 for this. You got a lot of trash you got to pick up. Wow. Hopefully the person that bought this knows exactly what they're getting themselves into. This is an old gas and propane station. And I think there was contaminated property. Yes. Let's see. Old cement pad, old gas pumps. Some of these ceiling tiles are coming down the roof because the roof's bad. That's the least of your concerns, though. You're more worried about this here, the underground storage tank database indicating 2 underground tanks, which may partially or wholly be located on this parcel. Environmental report conducted 2024 found several contaminants on site. I really hope whoever purchased this for $9,800 knows what they're getting themselves into. Let's see. Looks like they had, I don't know if this is still available or not. We'll see if it's, underground storage tanks. Okay, well, it's just a map that shows the storage tanks. It doesn't have anything about this specific property besides that it does have storage tanks. The problem that people don't understand with this is, first of all, you need to do a baseline environmental test right now to see exactly what's on the property, and you better do it today, the moment you pay for this property. That way you at least have some sort of legal standing to say, I'm not the one to put this there. But even still, you will likely be required to remediate this somehow if there's contaminated soils because of the property that you own. So if you have underground tanks, they're linking, and I think, it said something about several contaminants. Like, that is a very, very serious, it can be a very serious issue, and it's one of those things where, you buy it. If you buy this in your personal name, you could be sued by a lot of people. Anybody nearby could sue you if they wanted to. The EPA could sue you. DEQ could come after you, and they could ruin you financially. If you bought it in an LLC, even still, they might name you on a lawsuit. Obviously, I'm talking about worst case scenario stuff here. I like to avoid stuff like this because there's just so much risk. But whoever purchased it, I hope they know what they're doing. All right, next one. You get a boat slip, $250. I don't have no idea what the value is here. This property here does not have access, $1,400. Somebody paid for it. There's a little road here, but it doesn't have access. A POA, $350. Let's see. Let's see. These properties here, these 3 houses, that one looks like it's beyond repair, but these 2 houses, maybe you can salvage something. We had an old mobile home park. We talked about this. I think it was like the Jerry Springer is what, the Jerry Springer show. So this is good. It's 11 acres. If you contacted the local government and they say, yes, it is still zoned for mobile homes, then by all means, this property is a good deal. 11 acres, $72,000. The most valuable thing being the mobile home zoning. Because then you can go in, you can put your own, new mobile home park, tiny homes, whatever the county will allow based on that zoning. And that, the ability to get that zoning is very difficult in many areas right now. So if you have that zoning, it really, they declared it condemned, but that's not a big deal. I mean, that means the properties there are condemned, but when they declared it condemned, when the county took over, did they rezone it to residential opposed to mobile home, which will greatly impact the value of that property. If it's still zoned as a mobile home park, then you have a lot of value in that property still. Otherwise, 11 acres for $70,000 or so might not be the best money spent. But I'm assuming that hopefully whoever did this did their research. At $72,000, 11 acres at zone mobile home, that's a good deal in my book. Let's zoom in really quick and see if we see anything. There's a mobile home park. It looks like you have some additional acreage over here. Yeah, so if it's still zone mobile home, it's a good deal. If it's not, it might not be a good deal. All right, let's look some more. $500 for this lot, $100 for this lot, depending on what the county or the city says, might or might not be a good deal. No access. Somebody paid $150 for this. I think you have to walk there. I think that's pedestrian access only, if I remember right. No, that's a different property I'm thinking of, but you can't get to this property. Somebody storing trailers and junk there. Yeah, you can't get there, can't use it. Worthless. $100 for this little side. You bought this guy's driveway for $100. Got this guy's side yard for $100. Again, I don't think these properties are buildable. If they are, you can probably sell them to a speculator online. Otherwise, it's a waste of money. Somebody paid $100 for a 10-foot strip of land. Just ridiculous. Just looking at this, it's a 10-foot strip of land. I mean, there's unless you own one of the properties that adjoin this, or you need this 10-foot strip of land. Perhaps maybe it is the connecting piece to the property that you own in the back. You're going to use it as an easement or something. Yes, maybe you can make some money on it. Maybe you could have a use for it, but you're talking a 10-foot wide, too narrow to build on. It's a pointless property to purchase, and somebody paid $100 for it. Just because you can buy something for $100 does not mean it's a smart decision, because what's going to happen now is you'll get tax bills. Eventually, you don't pay those tax bills and MU in a tax foreclosure lawsuit. And you get paperwork and all that good stuff, and just not going to be a good situation. For why? Because you want to buy something for $100. Like it's silly, it's stupid. Same thing here, 0.04. Luckily, nobody bought this. Nobody bought that. Good. This is you can't access that. $150 wasted. $300. This actually. Okay, so Baldwin, we actually talked about this previously. I don't know. I think this is Lake County. Don't know the specifics of this. It is too small to build on. It's 30 by 100, but I think somewhere in that county you're able to camp on properties, put like travel trailers on there for a short period of time. If this is that area, you can make some money in there. If not, your options are really limited. Let's see. We got, this has access issues. All these properties with access issues, you're really, really hoping that something works out for you. But I mean, you're kind of swimming upstream without going upstream without a paddle, I guess is the saying. 2,500 feet for $100. Same thing. You have this one here. This looks decent. $17,000 for 0.6 of an acre. 3 lots. 0.6 of an acre. Yeah, ground level throughout. Wetland, there is standing water. That's not cool, but somebody said just a good spot. Okay, so and we talked about this before. Title Check, which is the company that runs tax-sell.info for the state of Michigan. They do a pretty good job with their descriptions and whatnot, but kind of take them with a grain of salt. Obviously, you'd never want to invest solely off of those, but you can read them and get an idea. So there's some wetland indicators here. 17,000, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, that's probably a decent deal. I don't know the exact value in that area, but this property here is a swamp lot. I remember seeing that one. That's underwater, $250. It's a waste of money. This one right here, another potentially $30,100. I mean, this is one of the scary situations. If you don't know what you're doing, this can be bad news. A buried underground storage tanks, 4 tanks here holding 155 gallons of fuel. If you buy this, you're on the hook for their removal. Look at this. We'd be extremely cautious about becoming a voluntary acquirer of this or any contaminated property. So this is the second contaminated property that we've seen on here. I truly hope that this person, whoever purchased it for $3,100, knows what they are getting themselves into. because they could be demanded to pull those tanks out of the ground and remediate any contamination. And that can get very, very expensive. That $3,100 is just a drop in the bucket for what they're going to be required to invest in this property to clean it up. And will the value be there after that? Nobody knows. Probably not. All right, moving on here. Performance bond. The person that paid $100 for that probably does not have the performance bond. They probably canceled that bid. You have a couple of lots here, Canadian Lakes, a few lots. Same thing with these lakes. These lots very similar to lakes to the north and other areas. You can buy these if you sell them quickly, if you strategize. If you do like what we talked about in Taxable HQ, you can make money on these. But if you don't, you can lose money very, very easily. This little lot here, that's probably a money maker. This lot here seems kind of high, 10.5. Might be a moneymaker. I don't know much about that area. Vacant commercial lot. I think that is behind a guardrail, if I remember right. No, it's a different property. But it's kind of, yeah, it's on the right of way. It's triangle shape, which doesn't give you, more than likely, that's going to be a worthless piece of property. $650, that might be a good deal there. $250. Soon to be vacant as long as you're not paying for demolition costs. That's probably a decent deal. You can sell it online. $8,600 for this one in Monroe. That seems a little pricey to me. Don't know anything about that area though. Based on the homes background, doesn't look horrible. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know enough about that area. I don't see anything that stands out one way or another. $8,600 seems a little bit high for an urban lot, but the homes do look decent and well maintained, so maybe it's worth it. Honeymoon Heights, same thing with these lots. You have high HOA dues, you have low values, but you can sell them with the right strategy. Muskegon lots, Blue Lake Township, I believe is this one. $200. These are not accessible. There's no frontage there. Can't access that one. $15,250 for a lot in Muskegon. Seems really high to me. Let's see where this lot is at. Let's see what we got here. So it looks like an old building of some sort. Old church got knocked down. Looks like the church was, yeah, there's condemnation notice on that from 2024. Looks like the church was knocked down. Unfortunately, I think this person probably overspent. It's been a number of years since I actually have driven through this area of Muskegon, but just going through here on June 2024. Up here on the street view. I mean, these are nice homes. These are nice, well-kept homes. I just don't know if $15,000 is a good value for that property to be able to build on it again. Seems a little bit high to me, but maybe not. Same thing on here. Vacant lot on Wood Street in Muskegon. This is probably Muskegon Heights, I'm going to say. Let's see. Yeah, 2917 Muskegon Heights. That price is pretty seems about accurate. Nobody's gonna build on that, but you might be able to sell it online to a speculator, perhaps. It's just an urban lot. I would say it's either the side lot here, 2917? Is that what it was? 2017. So it looks like this house has been knocked down. No, 27. This 2721. So it's probably going to be this side lot here. Is what I would imagine. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, that's you buy it for $200, you sell it online to somebody that will perhaps give you $1,000 for it, perhaps. This whole lot here, luckily nobody bought that. That house there, we looked at that earlier. That's got a bunch of issues with it, but you might be able to make some money. I don't know the value of the houses there. I have to do more research. Same thing with this one here. This is somebody that got click happy again, paid $100. This little tiny piece of land that was a triangle in the middle of the golf course. Number one, you can't access it. Number two, you can't build on it because it's too small. So you bought yourself a tax bill and 0.02 acres. I don't think people realize how small 0.02 acres is. You can't do anything with that, but somebody got a little click happy and they decided that they would bid on it. So there you are. Let's see this property here. That's an HOA. Yeah, for $600, you probably make some money. Golly. This is a property you can't access. Number one, it's too small to build on. Number two, you can't access it because there is I believe it's an off ramp or a major highway there. Nonetheless, it's a complete waste of money. It sits behind a house. Yeah, behind a house, behind a railroad track. You just can't get to it. Somebody pay $100 for it. I don't know if people are just buying stuff because it's $100 and they think it's cheap or what it is. $4,100 for this property is probably a good deal if I remember right. Let's see. 80 by 285. Yeah, this is actually a decent piece of property. I remember looking at this one. If it loads. All right, that's not going to load for me. All right, no worries. I remember looking at that one, and that's a decent piece of property for $4,100. That is probably a good buy. Somebody's making money off that, I would say. Don't want to buy that one. No. These folks wasted their money. This guy, why would somebody buy this? This is literally in the middle of a road. You do your research, figure out what you have here, and it's like a portion of this road right here. So you paid $150 for it for what? For nothing. These lots here are too small to build on. It's too small to do anything with. Lucky nobody bought that one. 150. Same thing here. Can't access it. Can't access it. Can't access it. That might be a decent buy here. I don't know the values of the vacant land in the area. Perhaps that might be a decent buy, depending on how much work is needed and stuff. Same thing here. We actually looked at this property last week. Might be a decent buy depending on how much work is needed and how much effort you're willing to put towards it. Shiawassee here on this spot on Main Street, $7,400. It's probably a decent buy. Yeah, that was adjacent to the insurance agency. Yep, we looked at this. That's actually a decent piece of property if I remember right. Obviously, you got to make sure it's buildable and stuff like that. But there's an old building there. They knocked it down. $7,400 for a town on Main Street. Not too bad. All right, let's see what else we got. I remember these two properties from last week when we were researching them together. And by the way, if you have not taken a look at that video, you might want to go take a look at it. It's a pretty good video. We go through a lot of this. It's not the same exact properties, but we tried to establish whether you should place bids on them or not. Now we're just kind of analyzing how much people paid for the stuff. So you look at these, and this is off an expressway, and it's a small triangle piece. Literally no use for this. $200. No use for this property. It's pointless to own this property unless you are the person that owns an adjoining property. This property here, 3 acres. I think it's all wetlands. Standing water, heavily wooded. Maybe it's not all wetlands. A lot of that, I mean, it just looks low. I see water right there. Yeah, there's water on it for sure. It depends how low it is. If it's just this front section, you can get to the back section fine. I mean, obviously, if you have 3 acres dry, half acre wet, no big deal. $11,000 is steel. If the majority is wet, $11,000 is a waste of money. So it just depends. And I did not drive by that property. Did not go to that property. You have this $2,300 here in Tuscola that you have to take care of those properties. Don't know if that's going to be worth it or not. That's probably a decent deal depending on how much work it needs. Unimproved roads might probably, unless they're an adjoining landowner, probably waste their money on that one. Not a bad. That's probably too small to build on, actually. So that's probably not a bad deal. 0.3 acres if it's big enough to build on. Same thing here. Not bad. Kalamazoo, if it's big enough to build on, good. This property is not good. I remember seeing this because it looks like it was designated for industrial sump pump for the neighborhood. I mean, you can't just buy something like this for $350 and go in there and rip the sump pump out and hold the neighbors hostage and stuff like that. It just doesn't work like that, folks. Although some people on YouTube probably think you can. 2-story house on North Rose, 14.2. That's probably a decent deal if you, have the talents and the time to repair that. A lot here, 0.07 Kalamazoo. If you can rebuild on that property, you can probably make some money online with it. Same thing with that one. Make money with these. Yep. If you are local, perhaps, or you have a contact that's local. Let's see. You can make money with that if it's buildable. That with this buildable. I'm talking about not a whole lot of money. $100 to turn into maybe $1,500. Somewhere in that ballpark. Same thing here. Margin's pretty tight on that one. Yeah, you can make some money on most of these here. Not a whole lot of money, but you can make some money. These are unimproved. Let's see. unimproved roads, so it's not much there. Scrolling down here, this is another property that somebody, I hope they know what they're doing. They've got, as an old junkyard. Site was contaminated numerous. Okay, it looks like the EPA did assist the county with remediation, removed 300 tons of contaminated soil. Okay, so they removed a lot of contamination from this property. It says we're unsure if it's ready for development or additional remediation efforts. So regardless, you probably don't want to buy this unless you know what you're getting into. I hope the person that did, that placed this bid went down the county and talked about if any additional efforts are required. 2.3 acres, even without any issues, 20 grand. Yeah, it's probably a decent deal. But if it has issues, contamination, contaminated soil, still no deal. That's marsh. That looks a little small. Don't know if it's buildable or not. That looks real small to be $7,000. Maybe it's decent. I don't know. Have to do more research. Let's see. No, I bid on some of these things. $3,000 for a lot in Oakland County. Seems a little high. $1,000 for this property. I think this actually goes up half that side of the hill. I don't know if it's going to be buildable. If it is, you're not going to make much money. Scrolling down here, let's see here. 0.11. No. This little commercial building in Pontiac. If you had local resources, you can make some money. With this, depending on the condition, I don't think I looked at this one last time. Yeah, it's got a little structure buff. There's some foundation issues and yeah, I mean, it's obviously code violations and all sorts of other fun stuff. Maybe you can make some money. Don't really know though. All right, so this is interesting. You got a permanent easement for Oakland County. That's odd. Okay, let's see here. What else we got? $2,000 to this property. I don't know if you can even get to it. I'm assuming there's an alley or something in the back. $2,000 for this. Seems a little high for just a lot, but maybe it's not. This has access issues. I don't know why people buy this stuff. I wish I've got thousands and thousands of YouTube videos online right now, and probably 500 of the videos will say don't buy properties like this, but people still do. It looks like it. I mean, it's on I-75, so you can't get to it. Obviously, DOT is not going to allow you just to put an off ramp onto your property. It also looks like it might even be wet. Yeah, just west of the lake. It looks like it could be wet. I can't really tell from this aerial. It's not really worth the time to put much more effort into it. I mean, there's obviously you could do a billboard or something, perhaps, if you can get an easement or pay for an easement from landowners nearby, and if the county will approve. I mean, there's so many ifs, too many ifs to be investing $2,000 into a property like that. Maybe they have a better idea than I have for the property. Maybe they looked into it further, but I don't know. Same thing here, 0.03 acres. That's interesting because I don't know if that's total 0.03 acres, $2,900. They do have access issues. If you own one of these lots in front of them, it makes sense. Otherwise, it doesn't. Old log cabin on that one. That might be worthwhile. 0.07 commercial. If it's buildable at all, $2,100 might be a good speculative play. Lake Isabella. Looks like one of these sold, 1 out of 3. I think when we looked this up, there wasn't a whole lot of value there, though. These houses, obviously, you have to know the area. You have to probably check out the houses much closer than I'm doing looking at photos online. You can probably make some money on them if you have the local resources, the time, and the talent to tackle something like that. $650 in Saginaw for this lot. You maybe make some money online. Same thing with this house here. Let's see. Let's scroll down. There's a lot of little $100, a few $100 here, a few $100 there. Let's scroll through it, see what we got. $20,000 for this building in Flint. Don't know anything about that where it's actually Flushing Road. I've been there before. Don't have the address, but yeah, you probably make some money on there, perhaps. Same thing with all these houses. But the problem with certain areas is, it becomes a point where it's not economically feasible to invest the money that a house needs. By the time you put in the HVAC, the foundation repairs, roof repairs, all that good stuff, it exceeds the value of the property on the open market. After repair value is going to be lower than the repairs that you would have into it. So be careful with certain properties in certain areas, at least. A lot of these properties were bought by people out of town that aren't going to do anything with them. They're just going to fall down at some point. Let's see, $12,000 for that lounge. Let's see, scroll down. I wanted to see. Okay, so we actually saw this. This was sold for quite a bit of money. We went over this last week. This was 10 acres, and I think this is the one that was attached to the golf course. Yeah, so this was attached to the golf course. It used to be their own old driving range, is what it looked like. 10 acres. $320,000. That's pretty steep. Don't know the value of commercial properties in that area, but it seems like somebody, or at least multiple people actually, wanted to place offer bids on this property to see what they're looking at. Let me see if there's anything on LoopNet nearby. Yeah, so you got 1.5 million for 69 acres, 2.2 for 2.3 acres, 1.3 for 9.6 acres. So yeah, I mean the value, and I don't know how close these properties are, but here's a 1 acre lot for 5. This is probably the closest one for 1.3. So whoever bought this kind of probably knew what they were doing. It might need to get rezoned. Don't know what the specifics are behind that property. We didn't really look into it too deep last year. Last week, but $320,000 for this based on some of these comparables, that's pretty solid. That's a pretty solid return. We'll have to check back and see what happens with that property. Let's scroll down a little more. There was a mobile home park that they had at one time. They might have pulled it from the auction. Yep, they might have pulled it, or it might have been in a different. Oh no, here it is. $11,750. Okay, so somebody bought this. I did an entire video on this one here, and I think it was, how many acres was this? 10 acres? I don't know. I mean, it's quite a few acres. But what happened with this is it was a mobile home park, and being zoned, having the mobile home zoning really provides you a lot. I mean, it's a tremendous increase in value, and we talked about this previously. But you just go in there, you clean it up, put tiny homes, put your mobile homes, whatever the county allows, because the value is in the mobile home zoning of the property. Because you just can't go out to the county and say, hey, get this without having to go through the whole ordeal and stuff. So there's a lot of value in having that. But this particular area caused a lot of issues. So the city, when they took ownership through the tax foreclosure, they went in and demolished the properties. They actually changed the zoning from mobile home to residential. So this person has $11,000 for I think let me see if it actually says the size on here. It doesn't say the size, but $11,000 for, call it 9 or 10 acres, which isn't bad for sure. Like that's, if you're looking to build there, or, maybe just hold as a speculative investment or something, you could do that. Obviously you'd probably have to go in there and, clean up anything else. And you want to make sure as well that the county, when they did the asbestos removal, when they did the demolition of the properties, all that good stuff, you have to make sure that you're not going to get stuck with that bill. So as you can see, there's some really, really good deals that we came across. This is the second sale. This is the leftover sale, the no reserve sale. So the quality of properties at this sale are probably some of the lowest quality properties that you'll see offered at a tax sale. But nonetheless, there are people that buy the junk properties, the properties that are little tiny strips of land that they're probably wasting their money on. There's a lot of people that wasted money just by looking at this list. But there are also a lot of people that made money looking at this list. And again, this is the leftover stuff. So if you're to go back to look at the initial sale that has the reserve of the back due taxes, interest, and fees, there's a lot of people that made money there as well. So hopefully this helps you out to kind of clue you in on Michigan's tax sale process. Their sales are now over for the year. You have to check back next July and August when they start posting properties again. But nonetheless, this is a fantastic state to invest in. But as always, make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you perform your research, and make sure you're very conservative with your bid amounts and you don't take risk and buy things like contaminated properties and strips of land and that kind of stuff. So learn what you're doing. You got a lot of time between now and the next Michigan sale to learn. And as always, of course, don't just invest in one state. Once you do learn the process, invest in Michigan now and then move on to the next state or the next area, maybe next month or after the first of the year. By all means, if we can help you in any way to learn this business, make sure you check us out at taxsaleacademy.com. We have a very comprehensive step-by-step training academy. We also have an entire tax sale investors community we love to plug you into. And again, that's taxsaleacademy.com. Hey, take care, folks, and make it a successful day. See ya. Bye-bye.